Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by Gulf Coast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have provided North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 25 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into Financial Focus, brought to you by Gulf Coast Financial Services founder and CEO John Kuykendall here with us. John, welcome back in.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be here. Great time of the year. Here we are at Christmas and New Year. We've already started doing some of our planning for 2021. It's just a great time of the year. But you know, for a lot of people, this isn't the time that they enjoy. There's a lot of stress that people put on themselves this time of year.
Yeah, and I think put on themselves is a critical part of that, John. Yeah, we're expected to do a lot around the holidays, travel, visit everybody, buy presents. But a lot of times we could maybe just take some simple steps to better control that. And you've got a few tips for people to maybe relieve some of the stress during the holidays.
Yeah, you know, I think that the thing you've got to do at the holidays is one of the first ones I saw on his list was say no. You can't do everything, so say no, do what you can do, make it an enjoyable holiday. Don't put stress on yourself. The holiday is going to be what you want it, what you can make it. You don't need to put a lot of extra stress trying to buy a lot of items or to find that perfect gift.
Yeah, set some boundaries. I remember Reese Witherspoon, I think, and Vince, where they went to 4 different Christmases. They had to do 4 different Christmases all in one day, and it added a little bit of stress on them.
4 Christmases in one day would be a lot of stress because you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with family. You don't want to do anything that's going to upset the family that you're going to have to live with for the next year. So be considerate of everybody. You know, the one thing that we've got to do is picture the kind of Christmas that you want and then kind of go for that. Look at your budget, which is really important, and then go for that kind of Christmas. And I think budgeting is one of the biggest things we can do at Christmas. But Peter, it's also one of the biggest things we can do as we're looking at that income plan for next year.
Sure. And I think that there are some great parallels between the Christmas or the holiday time of year and retirement and financial planning at large. I mean, during the holiday season, in order to achieve what we envision that to be about, we've got to picture it. We've got to think about it. We've got to plan proactively for what we want our holiday to be all about in order for us to achieve it and for it to be as stress-free as possible. And making a budget, probably a pretty important part of that. Likewise, for our long-term financial and retirement plan, you got to think about it. You got to envision it. You got to discuss it with your loved ones and spouse. And then you've got to plan pretty carefully for that income and expenses and the budget and the spending and everything that's going to take to support what you envision.
That's right, Peter. And you know, this time of year, it's even more important because of what we've been through this year. This year has not been normal by any stretch of the imagination. And we're going into 2021 really not knowing what 2021 is going to look like. And so, you know, we're sitting here, I just got a news break on my smartwatch that said that, you know, cases of Corona have escalated. We have more now than we're at the peak where we were before. So, you know, you got to sit there and think, you know, as I look at 2021 and I'm looking at my budget, am I going to be employed? Do I have a job? And if I don't have a job, how am I going to survive?
Right.
And if I'm close to retirement, do I retire now or do I wait?
And a lot of people have shifted their timelines there, John.
Sure, they have because of their companies downsizing. A lot of companies have gone out of business. A lot of small companies, family-owned businesses, have a tough time. I was talking to an individual a little while ago who came into the office, and he's got 2 rental properties that he hasn't been able to collect the rent on because the governor of Florida put a mandate on evictions. So he's collected no rent in 8 months on either apartment, but had to make his mortgage payments. So, you know, a lot of things are changing as we look at the environment and look at where we're going for 2021.
Yep. So if your timeline has changed, if your circumstances have changed, John, doesn't that kind of give us motivation to update and review the plan? Isn't that kind of a necessary step at that point in time?
Oh, sure, Peter. I think that anytime anything changes, we need to redo the plan. If you're deciding that, well, I'm not going to wait 4 years or 5 years, I'm going to retire now, we need to sit and look at the plan. If you've been laid off or downsized, or your company is shut down for a period of time, we need to look at the plan.
Another great point, John. Some people are doing this voluntarily. They've seen what's gone on in the
Mhm.
pandemic and said, hey, maybe my time is more valuable than with my family or doing the things that I enjoy than it is spent earning another few dollars for the next couple of years. And I'm going to go ahead and hang it up and retire a little earlier than I had originally planned. Still,
Well,
needing to review and revisit the plan.
I think, yeah, you're perfectly right. I think with the pandemic, the way it's going on and what's happened, a lot of people realize that, I may have thought I was going to live forever, but really I don't have that much time. So I want to spend the quality time I have while I still can with my family. And so what happens if I retire now instead of waiting 5, 6, 7 years? How much money do I have? What kind of retirement can I have? And the only way we can do that, Peter, is through the income plan.
Yep. So planning on waiting till 70 to turn on Social Security, but now all of a sudden we've actually decided to retire at 65 or 62. This necessitates us to review and revisit where all of those streams of income are going to come from, whether it be Social Security or our personal assets. And John, that's what the income plan that you just mentioned really is composed of, bringing all those pieces together instead of just independent wheels spinning on their own. Having some cohesion and coordination in the plan is what allows us to make the most of each and every source.
Oh, yeah, Peter. It's kind of the roadmap that we're going to use to plot our retirement. So I know that this is how much I have. This is how much I want each month. How am I going to get there? How am I going to structure my assets? How am I going to get the best plan that will give me the best chance of having that retirement that I want? I just met with an individual this morning. It was kind of unique because right before the show, he came in and started talking. He had planned on working another 10 years, but because of COVID and the slowdown in his business, he's thinking, well, maybe I've got 3 years, and maybe what I need to do is sit down with you and bring my assets in, bring my Social Security statement, my tax returns, and let you tell me where I am, and then help me get to where I want to be in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
And so we're seeing that with a lot of people it's happening because of COVID.
Now, for those that are accelerating their timeline, hey, the market's been on a tear up until this point, despite a couple hiccups at the onset of COVID, a big dip in the market, but resounding recovery, best of all time, quickest, or however they spin that on the news. But we are still in an environment, John, where when you're up at the highest point, it seems like there's more room to fall than there is to continue building to the sky. And on the other hand, very low yields and low interest rates with the more traditional conservative side of the portfolio. Is this putting some additional pressures on savers and investors and planners as they are looking to make this transition, especially when compounded by the fact that it might not be on the previously ideal timeline?
Well, I think you're right, Peter. I think that a lot of people, because we're pushing this and trying to retire now, they're tempted to take more risk than what they need to take or what they can take. And one of the things that we like to do is find your risk number so that you can sleep at night, but I can still get as much return as I can. Certainly, with the market being at all-time highs, how high can we go and how far can we go before we have another correction? If this corona thing continues and if we have another shutdown, then you're going to see the market retrench again. You don't want to be, pulling money out at the top of that market and have all of your money into the market at one time. We've got to diversify. You made a key point that interest rates, 0.5% on your checking account.
Right.
I got a notice the other day that I could get a high yield preferred checking account that pays me 0.5% a year. So
sign me up.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot better than a lot of other accounts.
So what are you going to do with your money? And I think a lot of people, they're going to make a mistake by not following a plan and diversifying their portfolio, not trying to make a home run by placing everything into tech stocks when tech stocks are at an all-time high.
Sort of brings up two questions in my mind for you, John. One, is there some money that it's just absolutely a necessity, just part of the planning process where we've got to be satisfied with those low interest rates for our emergency account, for our monthly bill money? We have to accept what conditions are and just relegate ourselves to a 0.5% or less on that money. How much is appropriate, I guess would be the question there, to have those low interest rates. And then it's not just about asset allocation within stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, because those are kind of all at risk. We've got to have different locations for our money, and the emergency account, the low interest rate, that probably is part of it, I assume.
Yes, Peter. We want 3 to 6 months in an account that I can get to immediately without penalty. And if I make 0.5% on it, that's okay. We like for our clients to have about 10% of their portfolio in cash. So that's either cash with us or cash in the bank, so that we can give them a liquid amount of money whenever they need it for emergency or whatever. 3 to 6 months is what we need to set aside. And then we want to make sure that we don't tie all of the rest of our money up. We need another longer term emergency fund for those roof repairs, the car repairs, those things that are going to take more money, car replacement. And we don't want to have it tied up into an asset that I have to take a huge penalty to get my money back. And so we need to be careful. It's not about asset allocation as much as it is asset diversification among the different products. And there are some really neat products out there today that we have at our disposal, low cost, that will help you get that diversification that you need.
You've talked about different buckets for your money. You've talked about it tax-wise, different tax classifications, and you've also talked about it in the quality of the dollars themselves. The green bucket being safe, predictable, recurring income that's going to be coming to you, your Social Security, your pensions, your annuities. The yellow bucket being kind of that emergency account, not earning a whole lot, but it's 4 times where we got to be careful and be cautious. Right. And then the red money is the risk money. John, by carefully planning kind of the green and the yellow bucket, it really can help us determine how much is appropriate to hold in that red bucket and what is needed for that emergency, long-term, longer need emergency fund, right?
Well, yeah, Peter, it's a fine line. We don't want to have so much in the green and the yellow bucket that we don't have anything in the red bucket, because the red bucket is going to be our growth part. And it's going to grow so that as we're pulling money out of the yellow bucket and the green bucket, the red bucket's growing so we can replenish those other 2 buckets. And so, we don't want to have everything in low yielding CDs or low yielding money markets. We want to have some money in the market, and that plan will give us the amount of money that we should have and the amount of money we can have, looking at all of the diversification. And, Peter, the one thing about income plans right now is there's 2 problems. One is we can't forget about healthcare costs, because healthcare costs are going up significantly. They continue to go up, and they're not going to stop. As we're living longer, we have more medical problems as we get older. Long-term care is certainly a problem. Dementia, all those things that go on to affect as we get older, they're going to cause us to spend more money. I think it's about $300,000 for an individual, $600,000 for a couple over their lifetime that they're going to spend on medicine. Then also, one of the big things that we're working on right now is, as you know, we're getting a new president, and that new president has got certain ideas about taxes.
Right.
And his proposal will change our taxes significantly. And we need to be ready for that and make sure that our income plan is ready for that.
Are you hearing from concerned savers and investors that are looking to plan for what's next?
Oh, yeah, we're doing a lot of Roth conversions right now. People taking money out of a 401k or an IRA, paying the taxes right now while we're in a lower tax bracket, lower capital gains rate, and going ahead and biting that bullet now and then getting that money so that it grows tax free. We're also finding that a lot of people are concerned about where they're going to be and how much their taxes are going to increase in the future based upon what happens. We've got two major components that we can't forget about. One is that with the change in last year, December, any money that passes past the couple, the husband and wife, and goes to the subsequent heirs, don't forget that money's got to be pulled out in 10 years, unless it's a Roth. So that puts a heavy burden on the children and grandchildren that are going to be inheriting this money. Also now, they're not going to get they're not going to get a step up on my house or my assets. They're going to have to pay the taxes. So we need to be ready for that and figure out how we're going to pay those taxes or how they're going to pay them.
Yeah, it could be a much bigger tax burden when passing generational wealth on to beneficiaries. This is money that in most cases has already been taxed once and now is being taxed again, or in the case of tax deferred dollars that has not been taxed, being forced to be distributed so it can be taxed much quicker to those beneficiaries. Not what a lot of people really, I think, felt as the ideal plan, but possibilities on the horizon that we need to plan carefully for. And, planning during the holidays, planning during a pandemic, both of those can be stressful. Planning for uncertainties into the future also, but that's what the planning process is all about, carefully examining those things. And if you need some help or assistance, ladies and gentlemen, give John Kuykendall, Gulf Coast Financial Services, a call, 386-755-9018. 386-755-9018. John, you mentioned one thing that I want to go back to here. You talked about the kind of the long-term expenses related to healthcare. Is that a completely different kind of emergency account? I mean, we talked about the green and the yellow and the red. Is that kind of money we need to earmark for a different bucket? We'll call it the purple bucket.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard of that, Peter, but it's a great idea. Also, when we look at asset diversification, there are ways that we can get long-term care covered by either a life insurance policy or an annuity. And so what we try to do is have certain things do more than one thing. So the more I can get my diversification spread out, I can cover some of those costs. But certainly, as we look at planning, we have to figure the medical cost somehow in our plan.
That's leveraging your money 101.
Yeah,
That's the basics of making as much financial progress as possible.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I want to do is take my money and do as much as I can do with it. And if I can leverage it and use somebody else's money for a while, that's fine. But if I can guarantee an income stream, and then if I get sick and need personal care, that money will double for 5 years, certainly a way to have it. Or if I want to leave my spouse or my subsequent heirs, I can do a life insurance policy, pull some of the money out for long-term care, and then still give them a death benefit.
There are planning opportunities out there to be efficient, to be strategic, to leverage your dollars, ladies and gentlemen. You need to be proactive. Give Gulf Coast Financial Services, Gulf Coast Tax Advantage a call. John Kuykendall, founder, CEO, more than happy to help. Always happy to hear from listeners, savers, and investors taking your planning and your future seriously. 386-755-9018. That's 386-755-9018. You can go online, gulfcoastfinancial.net, gulfcoastfinancial.net. John, finally, before we go, you have talked about several books on this program over the course of the program, one of them being that income allocation book. You had a few others, but there's another book that's out there on the horizon that you're very excited about.
Well, that's right, Peter. We have published a book called Financial Focus, named after the podcast, and I'm really excited to get it through compliance and get it out. Hopefully that'll be shortly, but it's just it's been a dream of mine to publish this book, and I'm really glad that we're that close.
We are close. It should be out on Amazon basically at any point in time here in the very near future. We'll announce a date for its release when we know it, and probably allow people to pre-order it so they can get one of the first copies in their hand, or I'm sure you'll have copies there in your office if folks want to swing by and meet the author and pick up. But chock full of information that we've covered throughout the course of this radio program and podcast, and that John has learned over his decades of experience in financial services that have helped savers and investors. So be sure to be on the lookout. Stay tuned, pay attention for our official announcement on the release date for the Financial Focus book, authored by our host and of course our source for that common sense approach to planning, John Kuykendall. John, we always appreciate your time. Once again, I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, viewers, listeners, if you need help, assistance, if you've got even just a quick question that's been on your mind, give Gulf Coast Financial and John Kuykendall a call, 386-755-9018. If it continues beyond that point to a longer conversation, a virtual review, a full comprehensive planning or retirement review, fantastic. They don't charge for that. There's really no downside to placing this call. No need to procrastinate, no cost, no obligation, no need to meet in person to get that process started. The safety and convenience of technology, you guys are fully versed with that by this point in time, aren't you, John?
Oh, we're ready. We meet with clients every day over the web, and we love to do it. In fact, we've had some people call up and get some late appointments because they can't come in. So it's a great time. And Peter, I just wish you a happy holiday, and I hope everything goes well for all. Let's pray that everything goes well for all of us in 2021.
Absolutely. Maybe a little bit brighter outlook for the year ahead. But John, same sentiment to you, your family, your staff there at Gulf Coast Financial Services. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'll probably talk to you again before the new year.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
You know, a lot to be said for putting ourselves in the best financial position moving forward. I know a lot of resolutions are always made about family and work and health, but finances really are one of the big ones. You don't wait until January 2nd to make that resolution. You start on it now so that you can get on the right track, right?
That's right. And that's what we're doing right now is we're already planning here as a company for 2021.
As you should be, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the phone, give a call to John Kuykendall, his team there at Gulf Coast Financial Services. 386-755-9018. Visit online, gulfcoastfinancial.net. We'll talk to you next time, John.
Thank you, man.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting gulfcoastfinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.